Hi everyone, it's Karen. I'm back with another video, and today is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to be doing a circle time, but I'm going to be talking about a documentation that is used widely, and it's used mostly with early childhood settings. It's used in a lot of childcare practices and in just different early, and I know us as an early on center, we use it as well. And so I just thought I would talk about it and basically just go through it and explain a little bit about it and try to pick out the main parts of it, just to help us support the children that we are with and their learning. And so it is called the How Does Learning Happen documentation. Hoping you can see it. So it's called How Does Learning Happen? Ontario's Pedagogy for the Early Years, a resource about learning through relationships for those who work with young children and their families. And so this is a copy that I got from my school, but you can find this online. I'm going to link it in the description so you can go through it with me, and you can just have it for yourself. But just to preface this video, I did complete my undergraduate in early childhood studies at the University of Guelph Humber back in May, but I haven't signed with the College of Early Childhood Educators, and so I am not a registered ECE. So yeah, just to make that clear before we get into the video, but we did do a lot of studying on this, and we did look at it, and we did relate a lot of the things that we practiced and the things that we did, and what we learned back to this document, because it is the Ontario guideline. It is the Ontario standard for children and their learning. So just a little bit about this document. I want to just kind of roughly go through it, and then we can dive into like the main parts of it. So as an introduction, it says that How Does Learning Happen? Ontario's Pedagogy for the Early Years is a professional learning resource guide about learning through relationships for those working with young children and families. And so this is a documentation, as it says, that is to help the learning of a child, and it's learning through the relationships of those working with young children and families. So yes, it's implying it's for like an early childhood educator or a teacher, but I think in any practice where we're working with children, we can implement these practices just so we're supporting learning. And as we are at home a lot recently, as we teach our children from home, or as they're spending a lot of time with us at home, we can implement these practices so that their learning is supported. And even though in seasons where they're not able to be outside or be in spaces where there are early childhood educators and they're interacting with others, at home we can implement this and support their learning as best as we can. And so again, it's a learning resource, and it's a guide about learning through relationships, through those working with children and families, again, like us who are working with children. So the word pedagogy, it's a word I had to learn as well as I started my program, but it says here that pedagogy is the understanding of how learning takes place and the philosophy and practice that support the understanding of learning. And so when it says it's Ontario's pedagogy for early years, the pedagogy is the understanding of how to learn, of how learning takes place, so how learning happens, and then the philosophy and practice that support that understanding of the learning. So the practice and the philosophy, so the reason behind it, and the practices that we do that support the understanding of learning. And so that's basically what this documentation is. It's to show us that we are learning through our relationships and we're learning through our relationships, and it's supported and it's influenced by the philosophy in our practice, and it's understanding how that learning takes place through what we think and what we do. And so they just specify here that they use the word educator to refer to anyone who works with children and families in their early years programs, centers, homes, and all based child care and family programs, before and after school programs. So they use the word educator here. Again, I think that we can I think we can even say that we're all educators if we're working with children. We're teaching, and we're teaching and being an example to the children around us. So again, it does say educator, but like again, as a parent, if you're a parent or you're with your child and you're teaching and you're just having these learning experiences at home, I think anyone can implement these, and I think they're great practices to do because it just supports our children in the best way. And so again, it just runs through, it has this great image here. I don't know if you can see it, it's like a triangle. Maybe that's a bit better. It's a triangle, and in the middle it says child, and on the outsides it says family, educator, and environment. And so this is a triangle that just kind of shows the impact that family, educators, and the environment have on our child, because these are the people who they're usually constantly seeing. And so the picture is described as learning and development happens with the context of relationships among children, families, educators, and their environment. So children are building relationships at home with those who live in their house or their household or in that family space, and then they're building relationships with the educator. So as they either go to preschool or daycare or school or whatever that wherever that educator influence is, and then their environment. So they're building relationships with their environment, so the community. And so this is again just to support the idea that children learn through relationships, and the document tries to help the family, the educator, and the environment work together in order to support the learning of the child. And so I really did like, before we get into everything, I just wanted to read this definition that they had for children, because I thought it was great. And I think as we go through this and we keep this definition of child in our mind, that we're able to understand children better and build that bridge of relationship with them, because we recognize their strengths and we recognize just the complexity of their minds and how willing they are to build relationships and how they want to learn and explore. So if we keep this definition in mind as we go through this video, I think it's a great way to start the basis of implementing this resource. So it says children are competent, capable of complex thinking, curious, and rich in potential. They grow up in families with diverse social, cultural, and linguistic perspectives. Every child should feel that they belong, that they are valuable. They're a valuable contributor to their surroundings and deserve the opportunity to succeed. When we recognize children as capable and curious, we are more likely to deliver programs and services that value and build on their strengths and abilities. And so this is just basically recognizing that children are capable of learning and capable of exploring and even teaching us, and that they have complex thinking and they are curious and they have so much potential. And so when we go through this, or when you're teaching children, when you're with your child, when you're doing anything with children, just recognize that they are competent, capable, and complex thinkers, and curious and rich in potential. And I think, again, just as we continue just this journey of teaching, that we keep this in mind, that, some people might write children off as, they don't know anything because they're young, but I think this document really tries to challenge that and say that children are capable and competent, and I think that's a really great thing. And so just keep that back in your mind. I think it's a great definition just to start this video off. And so the bulk of this is the foundations of how does learning happen. And so there are 4 foundations that this resource sets out. And so it is belonging, well-being, engagement, and expression. I'm not going to go through all of them today. I'm going to split them up into 2 videos just so the videos don't get too long, but I'm going to do belonging and well-being today, and engagement and expression in another video. But so there are 4 foundations on how learning happens, and again, they're belonging, well-being, engagement, and expression. And again, we run by these and we look at these and we see how our activities at the center kind of focus on these, and how we as educators in the center can kind of be examples of these foundations, because they are truly they are foundations that help us help children learn. So if you want to go through this document, they have a lot of great information on it. It talks about the principles and what's important, and research and theory and practice. Again, I'm gonna it's linked in the description, so you can look at it. It's a really, really great document, but I'm just gonna go to the part where we talk about the foundations. Okay, so belonging. So this is the page. It has belonging at the top here. And so belonging, cultivating authentic relationships and connections. So on every page, it'll have a goal for the child and a program expectation. So the goal for the child is every child has a sense of belonging when they are connected to others and contribute to the world. So every child has a sense of belonging when they are connected to others and contribute to the world. So this basically just talks about the sense of belonging that children have as they build connections, as they're building connections with others, but also contributing and inserting their opinions, inserting their thoughts, ideas, and their skills and the things that they like, things that they don't like. So the sense of belonging, the goal for a child is to ensure that they have that sense of belonging where they know that they're connected to others, but also feel comfortable to contribute to that social group, to those people. And so the program expectation, so this is for like the centers, like our center or schools and things like that. It is early childhood programs cultivate authentic, caring relationships and connections to create a sense of belonging among and between children, adults, and the world around them. And the part I really liked about this was cultivating authentic, caring relationships and connections to create a sense of belonging. And I really like the word authentic because it reminds us that it has to be a real and genuine connection. It's not just something that we can pretend to have, or something that we can like, oh, okay, we'll do this because we're told to, but it's an authentic and caring relationships that are being built, and to explore things with your child and to explore things together. And I think that's great to just remind ourselves that it is authentic. And so that's the expectation on us, to build those authentic relationships. And so just to go on the overview of belonging, again, belonging is a sense of the child feeling included, to connect and to contribute. But the definition here is, the overview here is, fostering good relationships with children and their families is the single most important priority for educators in their early years program. The ability to establish constructive relationships with children and families is a requirement for registered early childhood educators in Ontario, as they set out in the College of Early Childhood Educators Code of Ethics and Standard of Practice. And so, again, it's so important that they are developing constructive relationships with children and family, because it's required in the Code of Ethics for Early Childhood Educators. And again, that was another document that we looked at as I finished my degree. I can link it again in the bio. It's basically just the standard that your early childhood educators are to abide by. It's a Code of Ethics. It's a really good documentation as well, so I can link that in the description again. But that was just kind of the overview. And so I'm going to read this little part again on the other side of on the other side of page 24, just because I think it also gives a good idea of what belonging is. And so, a significant body of research indicates that positive, caring, and respectful relationships are the foundations for optimal learning, development, health, and well-being. By responding positively to children's cues and engaging in reciprocal interactions with them, educators support the development of secure relationships. Secure relationships contribute to children's emotional well-being and provide them with a safe environment in which to learn. Positive interactions support the development of social and cognitive competence and communication skills, which in turn strengthen children's capacity to learn in short and long term. When children are strongly connected to their caregivers, they feel safe and have the confidence to play, explore, and learn about the world around them. And so this really just emphasizes the importance of relationship building with children. And so I really like the last sentence. It says, when children are strongly connected to their caregivers, they feel safe and have the confidence to play, explore, and learn about the world around them. And so we learn here that secure relationships contribute to the child's emotional well-being and provide them with a safe environment to learn. And so when we're providing that safe space for our children to learn, when we show them that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to express your emotions, when we show them it's okay to ask questions and make mistakes and, do things that might be outside of their comfort zone, but support them in it. When we give them a platform where they are comfortable to truly explore and be curious and learn, that's when they are absorbing and learning best, because they recognize that this is a safe space, and even if I make a mistake, it's okay. Even if I don't really like the activity after I tried it, that's okay. Because they know that if the caregiver and the person around them builds a positive environment for them, they are inclined to take more risks and engage in learning because they are comfortable and they are secure. And they feel safe and confident to play. So like it says, they feel safe and have confidence to play, explore, and learn about the world around them. And so this again just stresses the emphasis of strong relationships and the idea of how important it is to build a positive relationship with the child, because that is one of the foundations and one of the bases for their learning, that they feel like they can engage and they're not nervous to make a mistake. They're not nervous to do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing or play with the toy in the wrong way, because they know that we're learning together and they're able to learn and they can be taught, or they can just explore in the way that they want to. And so on this page, on page 26, we have goals and expectations. And this is just, I'm not going to go through all of it because it's 2 pages, but it just talks about the goals for children. And so in what ways can we demonstrate a sense of belonging with our children? And so like this is kind of how you can tell that you maybe have a strong relationship with them. And so like an example of one is they feel included and safe in relationships with adults and other children in their early year settings. Another one is they participate fully in ways that are most comfortable to them. Another one is they participate in social interactions and share exploration and play and learning with adults and children. They make smooth transitions between home and early learning and early year centers. They begin to show concern and empathy and take action to assist others. So these are just some ways that children might demonstrate their sense of belonging. And so again, there's a bunch of them. There's a few even on the other side. And then we have program expectations. And so this middle column is ways which programs can help create a sense of belonging. And so one of them is being attuned to the physical and emotional state of a child and responding in a warm and sensitive manner. Connecting with each child and recognizing the value in their unique spirit, individuality and presence. And so like this again stresses the idea of being attuned to the physical and emotional state of the child and their manner, but then also recognizing and valuing their unique spirit and individuality and presence. So I'm sure we can all say that every child is different and they all demonstrate different traits and different kinds of personalities. And so as educators, as people who are with children a lot, we want to be able to recognize and value that uniqueness and individuality in that presence. And we want to be attuned to their emotional states and respond in a warm and sensitive manner. So if a child tells you that they're not feeling well today or they're sad, like being able to change our way of thinking of like the plans we've had that for that day and take a moment to respond and take a moment to like change our plans and respond in a warm and sensitive manner. So again, that they know that it's a safe environment for them to express what they're thinking or how they feel, but then also connecting with each other and recognizing the value and their uniqueness. And so we might recognize and see that a child is different from child B, or they don't do things like child C, but like capitalizing on that and saying and assuring them that that's okay and that's great, that we are all different, and letting them know that the ways that they're different or the ways that they express themselves, like that's all great things and it's all a good thing to be able to express themselves in. And so just assuring them that like they have a sense of belonging and they are accepted and valued in that space. And just additional considerations for the educator through body language as well as words. So how we touch and carry and move children through the daily routine sends a strong message. Again, just how you're moving in your space, in your environment, and the, I guess, aura aroma that you give off, and like how children are perceiving you. And so it's important to show in our body language that we are caring, and in our words, in our daily routine, that we are caring and we value them, and this is a safe space for them. And capitalize on opportunities for one-on-one interactions. And so sometimes we might be in spaces where there's so many children, or we're doing a lot of large group activities, but capitalize on opportunities for one-to-one interactions, so each child knows that they're seen, and each child knows that they're valued. And just recognizing that, giving them that time of attention, and saying, and just being like, I recognize you and I see you. And these are not things that you have to explicitly say, but just giving the time to play with them one-on-one, or talk to them. And here somewhere talks about like in moments of like diaper changing, in moments of feeding, just making sure that you are present in those moments, even if it's just a daily routine of, like I said, like changing diapers or feeding. Like capitalize on those moments and show them that you are there and you care for them, and making those moments special too, even though they might be something that's like a recurring practice. But really use those one-to-one moments and make sure that, and show your child that you care and that you love them. And then there's some questions for reflection that you can definitely ask yourself. I think these are great. I love discussion questions because they make you think about your practices and where we can improve and things that we're doing well on. So some reflection questions are: what can be done to strengthen the relationships and ensure social inclusion, participation, and a sense of belonging for each child and family? If you make one change today to strengthen the relationships in your program, what will it be? If you were to make another change tomorrow, what would it be? So these are just great reflection questions that you can talk to your children about, or talk to the adults around you about, or even just reflect with yourself. It's on page 28. And then we have well-being. So this is the second foundation of the How Does Learning Happen for foundation. So well-being is the second one, and it is well-being, nurturing healthy development, and well-being. So the goal, so this is on page 29 if you're following along. So page 29, and for this part, the goals, we're going to read that first. And so the goal for the children is every child is developing a sense of self, health, and well-being. So basically saying that your child is in a stage of developing a sense of who they are, a sense of their health, and their well-being. And so it's just a process of where they're developing and they are learning about themselves. And so your program expectation is early childhood programs nurture children's healthy development and support their growing sense of self. So early childhood programs are supposed to nurture the healthy development. So as they're developing, it's the adult's position to nurture that development and support that development and support their growing sense of self. So as they learn about themselves, we're supporting that and we're supporting them. So the overview, there is evidence that there's clear evidence that early experiences have a significant impact on the biology and the body and on the brain development, with implications for lifelong physical and mental health and well-being. Physical well-being, patterns of eating, physical activity, and sleep that are established in early childhood continue into later life. Inadequate nutrition and sleep, lower levels of physical activity, and persistent stress in early childhood can lead to later on health problems, including obesity, diabetes, heart disease, depression, and anxiety. And so this basically just talks about how these moments of early childhood are so crucial for the life ahead. And we actually learned in our program that the first 5 years are the most important years of a child's life. And so we can see that here that when we foster a good sense of well-being, when we're fostering good positive development and physical health and well-being, that they take it on with them as into their later life, and they take it on with them as they grow and as they become a teenager and an adult, and into their later adulthood life. So we really want to focus on the well-being of our children, because this is the body that they're given for the rest of their life. And so in terms of nurturing and supporting that, we want to make sure that they are being nurtured in this area, because we want to set the foundation for their well-being as they grow. So programs can have a positive influence on children and health and well-being, such as providing nutritious food and beverages that incorporate family and cultural preferences, creating positive eating environments with food and portion sizes that are responsive to children's cues of hunger and fullness, increasing children's physical activity and decreasing the amount of time spent in sedentary activities, and respecting and finding ways to support children in varied physiological and biological rhythms and needs for active play, rest, and quiet time. And so again, this just goes through how we can help our children. And so we want to provide nutritious food and beverages that incorporate family and cultural preferences. So Canada does have a guideline for food consumption and intake, and so we can always refer to like documents like that are from the government that show us the appropriate amounts of food to eat, and for our children as well. But also we want to include cultural preferences, and I think this one is really important as well, to ensure that they get, again, it's just that sense of self where they know where they're from, and like their cultural background is supported. And so supporting them in their cultural preferences, again, and that can roll over into food. I know food is a really important part of a lot of cultures, and so just incorporating cultural preferences into their everyday, and again, really bringing their personal culture into their life, and allowing them to be a part of that, because it's super, super important. And creating positive eating environments with food and portion sizes that are responsive to children's cues and hunger and fullness. So again, giving them a good amount of food, but also being responsive if they're full or if they're hungry, being open to those cues and supporting that. And then physical activity, making sure that we are going outside and exercising even as adults. It's super important. And I know it's not the easiest now because of quarantine, but try to make time to go on walks, or maybe, go outside, go for a little run, or play tag, hide and seek, and even in the house, if there's space, just to again, and if it's safe, to just play some gross motor games, so we get our children up and running, just so they're not sitting for a lot, because it is easy to do, especially because of quarantine. But also finding ways to support children in their physiological and biological rhythms as they and needs for active play, rest, and quiet time. So also respecting the times where if they're tired, like we can take a nap today, or just have a quiet time and read a book. So we're just respecting and knowing the boundaries, and respecting their boundaries, and challenging them to do things and play games that maybe they wouldn't because they want to stay inside, but trying to foster the physical health but also the mental and emotional health, and that's in well-being, but also again the food part, and trying to incorporate nutritious food into their daily life, and cultural preferences. So as we move on, there's different, so they have different, I really like how they this is a really great documentation because it's very organized, and I really enjoy how they kind of group things. But the first part of well-being is they talk about self-care, and self-care is developing a sense of autonomy and competence in a safe environment that offers consistency and continuity, as well as graduated support for children's growth, independence, and capacity for self-care. Enables children to tackle challenges and learn to persevere and explore and to cope with manageable levels of positive stress. And so we want to be able to develop the act of being able to self-care and helping them be able to face the challenges that they have, and to face the challenges that they have appropriately, and if stress comes, to help them overcome. Again, we are supporting our children, and as they face barriers, as they face hard times, as they face new experiences, that we're there to support them so that they can positively they can positively manage their stress levels and be able to conquer different challenges that they have, and that also builds a sense of self. You know, when you do a task that you maybe never thought you could, or, you know, when children build a tower all the way to the top and they get so excited, it's that understanding of accomplishment. You know, maybe it was stressful as the 9th block went on top, but they did it. So it's that sense of learning how to cope with stressful situations, or maybe situations where they thought they couldn't, and supporting them in that. And then there's self-regulation, and self-regulation is the different form of self-control, resisting an impulse. So self-regulation is different from self-control, so which is resisting an impulse, or compliance, which is suppressing behaviors to avoid punishment or attain a reward. Self-regulation is about how a child is able to deal effectively with stressors and then recover. When children are calmly focused and alert, they are best able to modulate their emotions, pay attention, ignore distractions, inhibit impulses, assess the consequences of their actions, and understand what others are thinking and feeling. And so it says here that self-regulation is about how children are able to deal effectively with stressors and then recover. So obviously, again, it's also kind of tied into self-care, that they're going to experience different things and experience different challenges, or be in situations that are quite stressful. But it's about dealing effectively with them, and, you know, as they are calmly focused and alert, they are best able to modulate their emotions and pay attention and ignore the distraction. So it's about self-regulation and being able to control how we feel, and being able to self-regulation is different from self-control, but it is about how children are able to effectively to deal with the stress. So it's how we are able to cope with it and deal with it. And so we want to be able to just support children in that area, and how we can help them control the emotions that are coming at them. And even though, you know, situations might be thrown in their faces and, you know, they don't know what to do, we want to help support regulating that, and support their self-regulation, and again, help them with the stressors and guide it. And then it goes on to mental health, which I thought was really, really cool. I really like this part, and there's a statistic that shows that 15 to 21% of children and youth in Ontario have at least one mental health disorder. So it just shows how prevalent it is in our age, and this was written in 2014, so not too long ago. But it says that 15 to 21% of children and youth in Ontario have at least one mental health disorder, and so it is a common thing. It is something that a lot of children have, and we have to be aware of our children's mental health and support that in ways that we can with helping. And so this just talks about, I'm going to read the parts that I highlighted here because it is a lot. Again, you can go through this and read it because it is really good. It's on page 31. But it says, when vulnerable children spend prolonged periods of time in very poor childcare environments without the presence of supportive adult relationships, they have an increased likelihood of experiencing physical and mental health problems in their early years that continue into adulthood. And so, again, when vulnerable children spend prolonged periods of time in very poor child care environments without the presence of a supportive adult relationship, they have increased likelihood of experiencing serious physical and mental health problems in their adulthood. And it ties back into belonging again, and we see the importance of relationship building. And so when children are in these areas where the support of an adult isn't there, we see that it contributes to poor mental health. And we see that again with how important belonging is, that they know that they have positive relationships. And so we want to be intentional about the relationships that we're building with our children, so we give them the relationships that they need to succeed. And so it says here, establishing responsive, nurturing, and stable relationships with children as well as their family. So that's what we want to do. We want to be able to establish responsive, so be responsive to what they need. If they're hungry, to give them food, or if they want to play or go outside, be responsive to that. But nurturing and stable relationships with children. And so having that stable relationship, and I think a lot of stability is with consistency and being consistent with how we interact with our children. And it's not a 1-day thing or a 2-day thing, but it's consistent throughout their throughout their early childhood, throughout their childhood, and on to just, you know, how long we support our children, but to remember that it's consistency, and that I think provides stability. And again, yeah, just to be a presence in their life. And then we have here that evidence from recent studies show that prevention and intervention is most effective when strategies are in place, not only to build skills in children, but also to strengthen the capacity of all who have relationships with children. So we want to, so again, intervention and prevention is important, so that we are, we see something that doesn't look quite right, and we are intervening, but also we are making sure we're preparing for the future by preventing situations that could occur. And so that's why we want to be effective in our strategies and how we are approaching children, but also build on our skills, and build on the skills that we have as we look after our children, and strengthen, and so that their relationships with others also can be strengthened. So we see that it's not just between child A and adult A, but it's with adult B and C and all the other children that are around them. Again, it's the community. And so as we build positive relationships, we see that it positively affects them and everyone else around them. Okay, so next we have what we can do as adults. And so we can support families by taking strength-based approach. So we want to capitalize on the strengths of a child or strengths of a family, so that we are using the gifts and the talents that they have, as opposed to, you know, referring to the places where they fall short. It's important to show them that they have good, that they are able to demonstrate things that are, like, you know, things that they're good at, because it's like, it's encouragement. It's encouraging for people to be seen by the things that they're good at and not the things that they're bad at. So we want to be able to capitalize on their strengths. So that's the strength-based approach. And again, it talks about here, when educators establish a positive and authentic and caring relationship with families and provide a safe, non-judgmental environment for shared learning, everyone benefits. Again, we're talking about that authentic and caring relationship as it pertains to families. So it's not just, again, with the children, but it's to families and the adults that were working with your children as well. And this non-judgmental environment, because it does benefit everybody. And so how can we be at a place where we support mental health and well-being for families and children? Well, we can integrate practices that support resilience, ensuring that children and families with mental health disorders are included and accepted. So not treating people who have mental health illnesses or mental health disorders as like the outsiders, but really including them and ensuring them that they are part of this community, that they are supported and loved by us. Taking strength-based approach, again, by recognizing and valuing the capacities that families have, while supporting them in assessing supports that they need. So really capitalizing again on the positive things as opposed to the negative, and supporting the things that they need. So that was the mental health portion. And then we get to this chart again. That was just like the one in the belonging. So we have the chart, it's double-sided again. It's on pages 32 and 33. And yeah, so it just talks about ways in which children might demonstrate their health and well-being. Children are physically active and confident in their growth and abilities. They are increasingly able to identify and monitor and manage stress levels and engage in strategies for self-regulation, and are increasingly able to take initiative, tackle challenges with enthusiasm and persistence, and cope and adapt to changes, frustrations, and the unexpected in everyday living. So that's how children can demonstrate well-being. And ways that programs can foster the health and well-being is by providing healthy meals and snacks, and establishing positive eating environments, incorporating opportunities and time to practice self-help and self-care based on each child's capabilities throughout daily routines and activities. So incorporating this into the daily routine and daily activity. It's not just like, again, so it's not just like a once, like every month thing, but it's making sure that this is something that is a recurring thing in your daily schedule. limiting activities where children are sedentary for an extended amount of time, so being able to create a schedule where children are moving and not just sitting for the whole duration of the time, and children's efforts to take responsible risks and test their limits and gain increasing competence and a sense of mastery through active play and social interactions. So they are able to so we're able to challenge our children and support that, but assuring them that they can take chances, that they can take challenges and take them and complete them, even though it might be intimidating at first. We can support that and allow them to know that they are capable of completing tasks that might seem challenging to them. And then additional considerations for educators: daily routines such as mealtimes and getting ready to go outside can provide an ideal opportunity for children to practice their growing self-care abilities, as well as promoting self-regulation, persistence, and a sense of competence. For example, having a snack table open throughout the day may help children become more aware of their internal cues for hunger. Allowing ample time during meal times and daily routines create a positive environment for children to practice self-help skills such as serving themselves and or getting dressed. So it just talks about how they can follow their own social cues if the snack table is open, because if they feel hungry, they can go to the snack table, but also not rushing that idea of lunch and being like, oh, you only have this amount of time to eat, giving them that space and that comfortability to, be able to help themselves and eat at their pace and feel that sense of accomplishment as they nourish their body. So that was kind of that for the charts. And then we have the reflection questions, again, the discussion questions that I really love. And so some of them are like, how can the environment be arranged to encourage children to engage in activities that involve the element of manageable risk, obviously for appropriate for children's varied capabilities? What improvements are needed to ensure that the type of meal and snacks they are eating in the environment reflect the goal of the children? And so there's just different questions here, and so you can go through them and think about it, reflect on them in your practice, and see areas where you can improve and the areas that you're doing well in. And that's all I have for belonging and well-being. And so the next video will be on engagement and on expression. So I look forward to seeing you there. Hopefully this was helpful as we talked about belonging and well-being and relationships and building the sense of self in a child. Again, this is the How Does Learning Happen resource that's provided by the Ontarian government. And everything should be linked in the description below. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or email us. But thank you for watching. And I hope that, again, that you learned something, or that you just are able to implement this in your practice, in your parenting, and your teaching. So yeah, I think that's all for me, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.